Now we're going to have a little update with the TTPS, a really nice segment that is very engaging, I was saying earlier. And with me this morning is Inspector Sheridan Hill. And we're going to talk a little bit about making prank calls to the police hotline. Now, when I was a kid, growing up, of course, in having fun, we'd make prank calls to just random phone numbers, but not to the protective services and stuff, because we knew from a young age that's something that would cause a lot of trouble. Now, people actually make prank calls to the police service. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, they do. Prank calls, nuisance calls, and the impact of those prank calls is really something else, and it's something we really want to discourage people from doing.
Right.
And it impacts on our ability to really deliver the service that we ought to deliver.
No, it's really interesting. I mean, there are so many implications, with prank calling the police service, because say somebody calls and say, okay, they're witnessing a robbery in progress at X location and stuff. Now, what stance would the police have that, would they, what would they do to, for a call like that? If they hear that, would they respond to the situation on location that is mentioned, and what happens when they go to that location, nothing's actually happening? Like, what's the process?
So that is exactly what happens. And so you have the prank calls and you have the nuisance calls.
Right.
So people make false telephone calls, tell you about there's a bomb threat, or there is a robbery in progress, or there's a man on premises. And then you have the persons who would call and make the sexual songs on the phone and
right.
and make ask funny questions,
right.
and so on. But depending on the nature of the call, the service will now have to engage different arms of the organization,
right.
and other entities. For example, the fire services, sometimes the defense force, depending on the nature of the cause.
Right.
And this really should not happen, because now you have a lot of resources being channeled into an area that really ought not to be.
And
exactly.
these resources could be used otherwise.
So just to give you an example of some of the calls, you have the bomb threats.
Right.
You have people calling to threaten the commissioner of police, to kill the commissioner of police, or sometimes a government minister. Another example would be like a young man calling to report men with guns in the Bagatelle area, just for example, or somebody calling to state that a pharmacy is being robbed. And then you have several agencies within the TTPS responding to these calls.
Right. And so again, that would take resources, that would take the time of the protective services. What are some of the other implications with something like this?
But then there's cost as well.
Right.
And apart from cost, you're looking at using the resources unnecessarily when other persons really who genuinely have a concern and need those resources
right.
cannot really access it.
So what do you when it comes to like crying wolf, how does that work out? Because not every single call, as you're telling us, because some people make prank calls, they make false reports and such. Right. How does the police service deal with the entire thing?
Okay, so I'll give you an example, and then I'll tell you about I'll give you some of the statistics.
Right.
And then tell you what are some of the two consequences of those calls. So I dealt with some of the prank calls. I'll give you some of the nuisance calls. Persons calling to say that no one is at home. Children calling to say that they're being raped when that is not the case. Persons calling wanted to speak with the lady with the pretty voice. Those are some of the nuisance calls. But to give you an example of the magnitude and the impact of this, in 2018, last year, the entire year, there was 1,139,798 calls.
In what space of time?
This is for the entire year, from the 1st of January to the 1st of December. Of those calls, only 131,963 calls really required assistance. So 1,007,835 calls were either prank or nuisance calls.
Those are startling figures.
Yeah, and for this year, from January to April 30th, there were 322,600 calls. Of those calls, only 48,427 genuinely required assistance. So 274,173 calls were nuisance/prank calls.
Wow.
So
Just before we close, what is the penalty if you are caught making a prank call or a nuisance call?
So there are two offenses: the misuse of the telephone,
right,
or wasteful employment of the police. For misuse of the telephone, it's either $200 or 1 month imprisonment, and for wasteful employment of the police, it's either $1,000 or 6 months imprisonment. Wow. But think of the impact that you are having, the negative impact, and the persons who really require the services of the police, the fire services, the defense force, that you are depriving.
And then the resources, would not be there for those who are in need. Inspector, this is a conversation we need to continue, but I need to throw across to Lisa right now because she's going to speak to someone about the mango melee. But I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Before we talk about the mango melee, and mango is Julie mango especially, my favorite fruit.
You and I could be friends. We could continue to be friends.
No, because I will take all your Julie mangoes. Inspector Sheridan, on the point of crying wolf, do prank calls result in the boy who cried wolf syndrome, meaning that if the police service is receiving all these calls, are they bound to respond to all of them?
We have to. And it's like making, I want to distinguish as well, making a false report, which is wasteful employment of the police, from someone making a genuine report and saying that they're no longer interested. Mm-hmm. There's a difference. If you, for example, a domestic violence situation, every time someone makes a domestic violence report, the police is bound to respond. It does not matter that 50, 100, 1,000,000 times before the person decided, I am no longer interested. Mm-hmm. That is different from somebody making a false report where you knowingly make a false report. That is different. Mm-hmm. So we have to respond to the relative cause.
All right. I want to thank you then. We're going to see you again next week.
Definitely.
Monday when you come back on TTPS Update. But